division of...
Hi everyone, welcome back. You're still with us here on the C Morning Show. It's time for our first discussion of the day, which may have began already, as you may have heard. Now, some might say that nurturing the young generation could do wonders for the national development well into the future. And our guest today is a youth with a deep concern for the development within our own country.
Yes, joining us this morning at the studio, one of the presidential special staff with a long experience in the fields of social development, education, advocacy, and policy making. Good morning, Kakak Billy.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for
Thank
inviting.
you so much. It's so great to finally meet face to face because we've met before, but only virtually.
Yep.
So this is a very exciting thing that is happening, the Papua Youth Creative Hub. What is it exactly?
So the idea of this innovation hub is to cultivate the talent, the young people. You know, Indonesia will be in the position of like young people will be the major demographic. We call it demographic bonus.
Yes.
And that's also happening in outer provinces, not just at the national level, but in outer provinces. So the idea is how to involve the youth to be part of the solution, not just critiquing, not just, you know, blaming.
On social media.
On the social media, tweeting, you know, being upset. But then if the government has problems, how can you be part of the solution? And then to be able to do that, the youth have to be trained. And we need facility for that because there's an inequality of facility, of trainings. Like if you are in Java or in Jakarta, you have lots of opportunities, training centers and programs and stuff like that. But in the outer provinces, like Papua, you do not have that kind of privilege. So we need to build that, you know, center and facility to be helping them.
How did this idea come about? I mean, I know that you've studied in the UK, you've also studied in the US. So how did this come about, and you know, what are the success stories that already happened in these two countries, at least?
I had an opportunity to be living abroad, and from my visits, I saw that lots of good examples in other countries that they have this kind of things. In the UK, in the USA as well, and I think my last visit in 2019 was in Malaysia. Even in Malaysia, in Putrajaya, they have this facility called Magic, and it was funded by, it's co-funded by the USA and the Malaysian government, where they select talented young people. They train them in a dormitory in a very fancy facility, and then after that they put the government problems and they ask those young people to solve the problems, make it into a process, technology, businesses or social movement, and the government will facilitate the funding to make them doing that solution. So that's where the idea was from. And I went back home to Indonesia and I had a chance to talk to President. At the time I wasn't a special staff yet, but I had a chance to have a face-to-face conversation with him. And he asked me the solution, like, what do you think that we have to do tangibly to involve the young people? And I pitched the idea and he kind of liked it and he made it happen. So basically it's the president who makes this happen.
And the inauguration is set to take place soon, you were telling us.
In the second week of March, that's the plan. We're still waiting for the president's availability.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So what happens once the president inaugurates the Papua Creative Hub?
Even before the inaugurations, we've been training the young people. Like since 2019, when he went to visit, he agreed to the idea and he gave instructions for the Ministry of Housing to build it for us. We've been training young people since then. So up to now, we have trained 5,530 young people, and they're ready to, you know, fill that building. But even before the inauguration, now it's lots of things happening, you know, on that facility. Like we have creative entrepreneurs, we have models, we have, you know, musicians. We even have studio to record the songs and music in that facility.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
And that's something that was, I guess, native or foreign, rather, excuse me, to Papuans before you started this. I mean, how was accessibility prior to your Papuan Creative Hub?
Do you mean the, yeah.
Accessibility to all of these programs.
True. We didn't have that kind of facility, and if you want to have a training, you have to wait until certain ministry or certain companies come to Jayapura, come to other cities in Papua to make that training, which rarely happen. When they have a chance, like when they, like misunderstanding about Papua still happen at the time. Like, all right, if you want to have a training, like entrepreneur training, if you go to Papua, will there be available, like will there be youth available to be part of the training? Like, it was very hard for me to explain that we have lots of youth.
Of course.
Like if you watch TikTok, for instance, if you look at the hip hop musician like that viral in the TikTok, it's them. They did it, on the street, in the house.
Yeah.
So if you come and have training, of course there will be lots of youth there.
Yeah.
So by having this facility, the youth come and know that they'll be having resources, not just a training, but also access to finance as well. Because we also, for some creative entrepreneurs and small medium enterprise owner, if they're ready enough, then we'll be disbursing a fund to be, loan for their businesses.
So this acts like as a connector, a great connector between, what had been inaccessible for most of this time.
For most of that.
Absolutely, because Indonesia has been quite Java-centric for a while. There are other regions in Indonesia, and that's what makes us Indonesia, right? So, since 2019, when you first proposed this idea to the president until now, and you said also you've trained about 5,000 young people in Papua, what sort of problems that you find in Papua that actually need solutions, regional, specifically to Papua? And have you found the solutions from these young people?
That's an amazing question because, since the spatial autonomy in 2001, the government, the local government was very committed to put priority on the education because, Papua is the poorest province with the lowest human development index, and education accessibility is the lowest, nationally. So the government, the local government at the time, committed to put 30%, to set aside 30% of the spatial autonomy budget for the young people education. And I was very lucky because, I was, the 90s generation, the millennials generation. And when I graduated from my high school, the scholarships were available for thousands and thousands of us, the Papuan young people, which were not available before. So we could go and study not just nationally, but even overseas by the scholarship given from the government. The problem is then, now, thousands of us, when we decided to come back, like for instance, I decided to come back because I love Indonesia so much. I don't want to stay overseas. I want to be in my country. When we come back, we do not know how to, be part of the solution.
Right.
And you don't want to be going to Java again to build Java. You want to build Papua, right?
Yeah, true. And how do I do that? I need a connection. I need to be part of the system which unfamiliar with me. So like this kind of facility will then help them to be partnering with the government as well. Like the government can put the problems, and instead of looking at the young people as a threat, as the enemy, they can come, they talk to these young people in this facility, and they said like, look, I have a problem that we do not have doctors in certain villages. Can you help making technology where we can, send doctors or, stuff like that. So instead of like looking at them as the enemy, but, make them partners.
Has that actually been the mindset from before, like seeing the youth as not really regarding them as much with that much potential?
Definitely not yet. Really? And that's been my main job, to advocate that in the national level to the provincial level, because working with the president as a special staffer, I have access to talk to the ministries, and I told them like, you know what, you have to partner with the Indonesian youth because they're so amazing and they have talents and they have ability to be your partners.
Great. So one of the things that you do to help develop the young people is through Papua Muda Inspirative program. Can you tell us more about it?
So the inspirational movement is actually the thing that complement the building. So the building is like the hardware, the structure, and the movement is actually the software, the people who fill it out, make it live. And the inspirational movement is like that we tell these young Papuan generations have been educated by scholarship, have the privilege to go to school. We told them that, you know what, only 11% of us Indonesian young people who have access to tertiary education. The remaining 89%, almost 90%, do not have access to tertiary education right now. And most of them are unemployed. That means our privilege is our burden, is our responsibility to be inspiring them, to be providing ways for them to also, make a way to be successful like us. So that comes the word inspiration, that we want to inspire other young people to be part of the solution.
So taking that heavy burden, that role upon yourselves, but hopefully making that majority less so of a majority. That is a huge number.
That's true. That's quoting even the Minister of Finance, Ibu Sri Mulyani, always on different occasions when she had a meeting with the LPDP scholars where she told us, look, the scholarship that you received is actually makes you obligated.
It's a burden that you have to be responsible. Study hard, come back to your home country, and build your home country.
That's true.
That's pretty much the message, right, Ibu Sri Mulyani? And by the way, so enlighten us. I would like to know what is happening currently with the young people in Papua. I mean, it's like, have some of them become entrepreneurs? And if they have, what sort of businesses are sort of like growing in Papua? Or what sort of, tangible solutions or businesses or whatever that is happening currently in Papua?
It's lots of opportunities, starting from the creative economics. When you talk about music on TikTok, you see how they can create lyrics, make it the Papuan version of hip hop.
Lovely.
And now we facilitate them to make industrious music where they can actually sell it on platform.
Lovely.
And then creative economics, we have very authentic Papuan culinary that we want to introduce at the national level, even international level.
Which is what?
Like sagu and
Yes.
sweet potatoes. That is very specific. The taste is very specific to Papua. And on the commodity, of course, Papuan coffee is very is recognized as very special in taste. When I was in the United States, I was part of the international trade. People in the United States know the New Guinea Arabica coffee as the Papua New Guinean, which is not true. Most of that coffee is produced in Papua. So
Interesting.
the movement of introducing Papuan coffee at the international level is something that the Papuan youth is also doing right now. Technology as well. Like people do not know that lots of Papuan who are educated overseas, like robotics, computer engineering, they come back and they also start to make their own startup. So the Java-centric terminology that you've said. If you want to have a startup, you have to live in Jakarta or you have to live in Bandung. Now with this facility, we facilitate those young people to also, start to making the startup tech. Even for startup tech, will be pitched in front of the president during the inauguration.
What are these for and what are they focusing on?
The waste management. So they try to help the cities in Indonesia to manage the waste efficiently and effectively. And then the talent management. So they try to data the whole young talent to be connected with the government. And I think the third one is a policy making apps where you can actually give your aspirations about development to the national or the central government via your phone.
Wow. Instead of just tweeting it all, it's probably going to be better digested by the
And I think the fourth one is the most interesting one, that they provide virtual tour and travel. If you want to go to Papua, you can even dive virtual.
That I am very interested in.
Had her travel. Billy, you've had a lot of experience managing social programs that obviously benefit everyone at both national and regional levels. Entrepreneurship is something you're a big advocate of. What are some of the more challenging aspects of entrepreneurship and developing it in Papua?
That's a very relevant and good question. Access to market.
Okay.
Indonesia is very heavily populated, like centralized in Java. Almost 60% of the populations of Indonesia live in Java. That means market. So regardless the production, the products that you make in outer provinces of Indonesia, it's going to be very hard for you to sell it to the central market. That is costly, logistically difficult. You want to send it by ship or airplane, that will be very expensive.
Yeah.
So I think that's a challenge that the president is try to fix, try to improve is the infrastructure, the logistics, and makes the business to be easy. Like these young entrepreneurs, they make interesting products, but how they can sell it and
Yeah.
introduce it.
So does that mean that you just sell to, neighbor close by, which is Papua New Guinea? Or, I mean,
Even surrounding cities,
Yeah.
regions that there is not a lot of population there, so
That's
only
correct.
3 to 4 million.
yeah.
In comparison with almost 100 million live in this island.
Yeah,
true.
yeah, that's true. Market, indeed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
I think access to finance as well, the capital, when you're talking about startup, the venture capital, they only want to, be partner. Like most of their facilities are around Java and big cities in Java Island.
Yeah, yeah.
How can we bring them to also looking at the outer provinces? I'm not talking just about Papua, by the way. I'm talking about other outer provinces of Indonesia. That's including Aceh. That's including North Kalimantan. Like, how can we bring this financier to go and introduce the products and work with the young people out there?
How do you convince them usually? Because,
Very-
VCs, they tend to just, they want certainties, right? Like, oh yeah, give me the data. Okay, potential, yes, okay, I'm gonna give you the money. It's like, when it's not in Java, I imagine that they're probably, it's not immediately sexy to them. So how do you convince them?
I think the role of the media is also very important. My video last week went viral where I compare like two different young boys. One is from, one is very famous in Java. Another one has just won an international competition, but he's from the eastern part of Indonesia. He's from, the entity, and nobody at the time cared. Nobody knew because he wasn't like up on the TikTok. He wasn't invited to the talk show to, to perform, like to show his ability. And I said in my video that that's unfair. That means the media also has to play an important role in introducing the opportunities, the availability of inspiring figures in those areas that provide the ways to introduce that opportunity to the companies.
Equal treatment.
Well said.
Equal treatment.
Indeed. And obviously, we wish you continued success at the Papua Youth Creative Hub. We thank you for your time, for joining us here today.
Thanks
It's
for
been very
inviting me.
inspiring.
Thank you,
Thank you
Billy.
so much.
And hopefully insightful for our viewers as well.
Yes, and now we're up for another break. When we come back, we still have lots more for you. Oh, I got too comfortable there. We'll be right back.